Welcome to the Cherland podcast, where I, Connor Cherland, meet up with a musician, hear about what makes them tick, what influences their songs, what kind of life experience they're bringing into their music. On today's episode, we have Chris Acker, normal spelling of Chris, Acker, and his new album, Good Kid. He is a good kid. He was asked once, but what are you good for? In this episode, we talk about things like motivational speakers, gaining respect, and not taking yourself so seriously that you can't spend a nice day out on a lake and in town with your friends eating pancakes. Please enjoy this conversation with me and Chris. First, there's so many things I long to ask you about because you have so many good answers to interview questions already. But I wanted to start off with hashtag choose yourself.
Yes.
It
love that you're leading with this.
It seems like a really important, I heard about you through Sam Gelband, and Sam is he's a hilarious dude, very sweet guy. It seems like every person that surrounds him is incredible and kind and talented. And you seem to be with hashtag choose yourself very deeply enmeshed with him. So can you tell me some backstory?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's funny because I'd love because I know that all I heard from Sam about you was that that you asked about choose yourself, which is what made me be like, yeah, I'm gonna answer that guy. I just love the idea of I want to hear his answer and then my answer, let's see what he says about it and what I say about it. But to answer the question, sorry, before I do, this is the best way to lead. This stuff is fun to talk about. So Sam and I have known each other since we were he was 15, I was 16, we met. And so we've been doing stuff together for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And but choose yourself was basically it's this fake self-help program. It's we saw this Tony Robbins documentary that was on Netflix called I'm Not Your Guru.
Yeah.
And it just freaked us out. We thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
And then we kind of started following these different self-help people on Instagram and stuff, and thought it'd be really funny to do a live show where we did a intense self-help workshop. We like to imagine we did it in a bar, and at the time Sam wasn't living here and he was just visiting. He was recording an album with Mashed Potato. He was supporting someone else. He was a drummer for a guy named Dean Johnson, and they were down here recording an album, and our goal, and at the end of the week, I booked a show for us, one for Dean. Dean was going to play, and then we were going to do this self-help program. And we came up with the script in a night, and we basically pretended the bar was this arena, where you really amp people out and are you ready to these are 5 things that'll change your life, kind of really intense, and they really promote drastic decisions, and that's funny because about the self-help thing, there is actually stuff that at its root I'm kind of about make big brave decisions that change your direction. But in this Tony Robbins movie, there was this one point where he found this lady in the audience, and she was I'm unhappy in my marriage, and he's I want you to pick up your phone, call your husband, and break up with him now.
Well, they weren't married though. They were just boyfriend and girlfriend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, still, it's really intense. And then also at the end, when they do the retrospective, they're like, P.S. they got back together and they have a better relationship now.
So you've seen it, yeah.
Oh, I've seen it twice.
But it's just that was that moment in that movie, I think, was one of the earliest catalysts for it, because we were just there's this contrast of big decision making and self being your own compass kind of thing, but contrasted with this I'm gonna do what that guy says. It's also totally blind and totally kind of the opposite of what it's promoting, and it's just kind of feels multi-million-dollar scammy, except for the fact that, like, it's a weird part of Tony Robbins where I'm like, I don't like him, but I don't think he doesn't believe in everything he says. Like, he's like, I don't think he's feels like or thinks he's scamming anybody, but like when you watch him, you're just like, dude, you are like, people are swallowing that pill a little too easy. But anyway, so that was like, man, I feel like I'm doing a bad job explaining this, but basically we were just like, and we did this bar show and we got in diapers and the whole thing was about choosing yourself. And like, even the first show we got tattoos on our legs. Like on stage, the finale, we got these tattoos that said choose yourself on them. And like, and it was just like, and we wore diapers and the whole thing was about like throwing away friends and family and just like kind of like isolating yourself, and you'll be happy, you know. And it was and anyways, that was in the summer in New Orleans, so not a lot of people were there. And then Sam moved to New Orleans shortly thereafter, and I think we did like we've done a total of 4 live shows, 3 in New Orleans and 1 in San Juan Islands in Washington. But anywho, it's like it's, I don't know, it's, if you're editing, how we describe it is it's the dumping ground for our worst ideas.
Yeah.
And then we just put like, it's just, I don't know, it's a really fun outlet for like me and Sam's more like humorous side, you know?
Yeah. So. One of the really interesting things I noticed in your music and also like the way that you answer certain interview questions is there's like in one of the interviews you talked about like having a really intense sense of humor as a kid and like pissing yourself in public in your diapers and then like being called piss pants, but like it's fun when you're like peeing your pants intentionally and it's not fun being called piss pants. And
right.
And like I want to dive into this in like a couple different ways of like, one, whose sense of humor inspires you the most? Like who have you seen as a little kid where you're like, good grief, now I have to emulate that?
Honestly, it was just when I was a kid, it was Jim Carrey. I just thought that was like,
it seems like something Jim Carrey would do.
But totally. And like going back on some of his movies, I can't stand by a lot of them anymore. But like him as a humorist and a comedian is like, I've always, and I still love him. There was actually I don't know if you ever watched the Norm Macdonald Live podcast or listened to that, but it was a great podcast that was a thing up until Norm Macdonald got a Netflix series and then that failed and now the podcast is gone and I'm just like, oh, I wish we could have just had the podcast. But there's an episode with Jim Carrey and it like restored my faith in how funny he was. Like it's recent and those two, and Norm is now like a comedian that I admire currently. Cool. He's like kind of the opposite of Jim Carrey. Like and I think that's where their admiration in the interview that is clear and why they make each other laugh so hard is because it's like, I don't know, it's like you're never as interested in someone that can do something that you can do, but when you see someone do something you know you can't do, that's like the stuff where you're like, so I don't know, Jim Carrey as a kid was I loved him and I still do a lot, you know. So
that's awesome. Part of the narrative of good kid is like getting D's to pass, but then like realizing like, I mean, you said it in one interview where it was like you don't perform that well so that people don't expect much of you, but then you're frustrated that people don't expect much of you. How do you like, but you also like allude to like you're growing up and you're like moving on in your own narrative. Once you realize that, it's like kind of easy to get out of it. So how has that been? Like what has that been looking like from like recognizing man, I don't want to be just this like good kid. I want to be good for something. Like what does that transformation look like for you?
Man, it's the irony of this is it's gonna begin sounding very self-helpy, but but
I chose myself.
yeah, I chose myself. But it kind of is that in the sense of like not feeling as heavy of an obligation to people and setting boundaries with people, which has always been super, super hard for me to do. And has been something recently. And that's where also like the frustration comes from of like when we're talking about like, yeah, you get frustrated with people not expecting much of you. You want to beat people to the punchline, but you don't want them to have that punchline on you because it hurts your feelings.
Right.
And just kind of like I felt like because I kind of sometimes made myself so vulnerable to that, people in kind of acquaintances would make kind of assumptions about me, about as far as the way they could act or talk to me.
Yeah.
And like that, like I still demand a certain level of respect, but that also like I totally understand why you don't think that you should fucking like respect me because I just pissed my pants. Like that, I said that because that is something we did in Choose Yourself. Like,
yes, that was my favorite story.
yeah, we straight up did pee ourselves. So like there is like an element of like, but then like why I do that on stage is because that's where I have like control. Right. And that's, I guess, the big thing is like, it's not letting someone, I don't know, like not, what I mean by like not letting someone have that punchline is like, you own the punchline, you get to do that, you get to do whatever you want to yourself. but then the moment someone like kind of reacts or like pretty understandably,
right,
or makes an assumption based off of that thing, like they're like, oh, that's the guy that pisses his pants, he probably likes on stage, he probably likes to like talk shit. And I do some, but then like they'll come up to me and people just get like go really hard on me sometimes, and I'm like, we don't fucking know each other, you know. So like so I guess like part of it's ongoing, it's like still so hard for me, but like by not feeling obligated to people or their expectations of you, you can be more in control of how you let them into your life and set those boundaries and be like, hey, don't say that, you know, which is like something that, but then again, like I get where they get that idea, but the difference is like in control, you know, like I guess anyone wants control of a situation, but that's what humor has always been for me, is a way to control the situation. So
I mean, it's also like talks about the assumptions people have on a person based on the art that they do or the performances that they do. Like based on your particular genre of music, there's like there's like a ton of assumptions that come with it. 1, you're a musician. 2, you're a guy. Like 3, you're young. Like 4, like that genre. Like these all have their own like set of assumptions that comes with it. Like everyone assumes I have 0 personal space because I'm a musician, and so people are getting way too close to my face all the time, and I'm like, no. How do you like? Clearly, you're not like sure you can perform and like act really silly on a stage, or you can like write these sad introspective songs. How do you differentiate those two things between like who you are as a person?
I guess I don't really, I don't in a lot of ways. You know, I see them as things that like support each other or that are like intertwined. And I guess maybe that's where some of the personal frustrations can come from, is like that I see it as all related, but understandably there is like this separation people might make between like the humorous goof and the introspective, but to me it's kind of all like
that's all you
tied together. Yeah, I mean, like like if we're talking about Good Kid, it's like, to me, that's like at once a humorous song, but also like, to me, that bridge, like if you just read it, which that sounded like if you just read it, man, but like if someone were to read it, not it, it's like kind of sad, you know. And like I see that those two things like exist at one time. So like, and that's another frustration that I sometimes get, is like this thing of like, damn, why don't y'all take me seriously or something like that. But then also being like, well, because like the last line of this song was a total fucking punchline joke, you know. And it's like, so like what I like to do, or like I hope to never separate those things. But I can understand how, not like it's a huge concept to grasp, but like I understand how sometimes people don't know what to make of it, you know.
I think people often don't know the amount of work that goes into making stuff. A lot of the time they don't realize like, oh, this guy and his best friend like thoughtfully sat down and wrote out a script and like made an entire thing together. Clearly they're not like, this didn't come out of nowhere, like off the cuff. They're not improvising something right now,
right? And another frustration is that you want it to seem like exactly like you just said, like that it's off the cuff or something, right? You know. That's the goal, but that, of course, it took hours, many hours to come up with all that, you know.
At what point, this is something that I feel like I often experience as well, because I look so incredibly young. Like very few people take me seriously. It's like, oh, a 19-year-old kid is talking to me right now. I'm sure he's very lost. When I'm 29, and
that surprises me.
I'm totally a grown ass man, like totally. And people, their first question is like, cool, what college are you at? So like immediately I'm like put down on the step. So what, like at what point do people start respecting you? You like play one specific song, or you like do something and you like earn their respect?
Yeah, maybe it's just my bald spot. Like I used to look really young, and then the bald spot came around, and they're like,
yeah, you earned it, buddy.
This guy's been through it. No, I mean, I guess I don't know. It's like it is a funny, whenever I talk about this kind of concept, it sounds funny because it's like this want to be taken somewhat seriously, but also you don't want to be taken too seriously. And it's just like, it becomes this conversation about things that you simply cannot control. Like, I don't know what earns my respect to people, but I also don't like when people like take it too seriously, you know. It's like I don't know, it's a hard, I don't know, it's kind of like a hard thing to explain.
When you play music, do you feel like people take you seriously afterwards, or they like respect you after you play a set? Depending,
you know. Also, I've played in plenty of just like bars that like you may as well just be the fucking TV. But good show. And that's where I feel like most, it's where I feel most comfortable. I don't know, like you referenced interview, the piss pants thing, and the like, all that. I think I also talked about there, and I just touched on this, but like humor has always been how I control the situation. No one can make fun of you if you do it first. And I guess the fun part of that, in a best case scenario, like a good show, is that like you can surprise people, throw that curveball of like play a funny song with a good punchline, or like a funny song that then gets really sad, or just like I'm more, that's kind of what I'm interested in, is like, I don't know, songs that can carry like both those things at the same time, you know? Which is like a hard thing to do, and I don't think many people have done it. You know, I think like Towns did it really well. It's always funny that people look at Towns as like a guy that's like all sad and depressed, and it's like he was, but like there was always like a humor and a flowery language to that guy, to where it's, I feel like it's kind of a insult to him that that
Yeah.
it's always just like the heavy hitting, like
Yeah.
lungs guy, you know.
Yeah.
But
I like this subject because it's like we're talking about like kind of polar opposites, and like one of the reasons why I really love Hosier is all of his love songs are also about death. So they're, but I feel like love is more beautiful when you connect it with death, because you realize like there's like a temporary but also like unlimited thing about it, so that there's like there's a tension there. But then also like humor and sadness, I think, are just classic storytelling tools. Like if you can make someone laugh, you can make them cry harder. If you can make someone cry, you can make them laugh harder. Like you build
Right.
tension and then you break it constantly. And that like do you have you ever watched like a live Milk Carton Kids set?
I've not, no.
They're so all of their songs are sad, just entirely. Their stage banter is the funniest thing I've seen in like a really long time, and the ability to go back and forth is, I think it's a masterclass of how important it is to pull on people's strings.
Yeah, I mean, it's like kind of a tension release thing, you know, like what you're talking about with the Milk Carton Kids. I think about my friend Zach Bryson. He has this album called Songs That Will Ruin Your Day, and they are like really brutally sad songs, you know.
Yeah.
But there's already like this humor in the title. There's a
Yeah.
self-awareness to it, and I just think so incredibly high of that record and his writing. He's one of the best to me, and he's also like the funniest dude I know. He played this show in Johnson City when we were on tour together, and he always had good banter. But there was like, this is maybe a long-winded story, but we had just seen his grandparents in North Carolina. We had a day off, and we went and saw his grandparents, and it was really nice. But they are very like just like backcountry North Carolinian people, and he has these really amazing like kind of God, I'm trying to not make this sound like dumb or shitty, is like, but just like good, like they're the incredibly wonderful people to be around. But he had this one story about, because he'd gone to Paris, and he was telling them about going to Paris, and his aunt just went over and just touched his knee, and she went, touch, I don't travel much, but I touched someone that's been to Paris. And it was just like amazing. It was like such an amazing moment.
Yeah.
And there was a few other things that so he came into this next show with like just a pocket full of like brand new banter.
Yeah.
And it's still in my mind like one of my favorite shows I've ever seen. There were like 5 people there. It was at the Willow Tree in Johnson City, and he would play these songs like I saw people cry.
Yeah.
And then in between it was like literal like gut like curling over. And he has a voice memo of the show. It was the one show he recorded, and it's one of the hardest I've ever seen someone murder, like on stage. Like it was just so, but it was that exact thing. It was just like, he shut up the room, and then everyone's like kind of reverent to him. And then he's like, it was basically by the humor says like, hey, you can breathe, you can laugh, you can we can all relax here. You know, it's like, now I'm going to play a song about trauma from my parents or something. And then like, I don't know why I felt compelled to tell a long-winded story about like a good show I saw, but like that was one of the to me, that was like the best show I've seen a friend ever play.
Yeah.
And it was that exact thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, we're building up tension where like a lot of times people, they kind of stay on the same note all night, which is like, now it's time for a sexy song. This is my sexy song. All right, now this is a song I wrote about another girl. All right, here we go. And then do the sexy song number 2, and you're like, all right, like I'm like in the groove. Sexy song 1, 2, 3, 4, but like versus someone who really takes you into like different corners of their writing. Like here's a ballad, here's a screamer, here's like a a techno auto tune. So when it comes to mixing humor and tunes in general, this story was my favorite, the Orion's Gut Naked take story.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And would you mind telling a little bit about that? And that's my question, I guess.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you, it's a great story. Basically, like the whole Good Kid record was done, and then I like thought of some new lyrics to this song Orion's Gut over this one part that's always been bothering me. It was like a couple words, and I was like, oh, are we gonna re-record this? Yeah, we got it. So anyways, we did like a last minute setup in my bedroom recording session, and the second guitar and harmony is Sam Gelband. And we did like, I think 2 takes, and they were fine. And part of the motivation for this is we were working with Duff Thompson, the mashed potato guy, and he's like, what to us is like one of the funniest people, but he's so deadpan that I've also seen him just like completely piss people off because they think he's just like fucking with them. Like he can come off like extremely rude. It like, to me it's really funny, but like if you're not in the, like, he'll start a take, and it's always recording, and he'll start a take and he'll be like, okay, are you gonna play now? Or something like that. And then like, and then you go, and it's, to me, I love it because it like relaxes me and also reminds me to like not take anything too seriously. But anyways, he does that, and we kind of wanted to like crack him because he's so deadpan, he won't laugh or anything. And so we just kind of wanted to like crack him, and he came back in the room after like the second take and like readjusted some mics. And then the moment he left the room, I whispered to Sam, I was like, yo, let's get completely naked. And we did, and then we did the take, and it was the best one. And I think it has a lot to do with us just being like, the song's already there. You don't need to take it any more seriously. Like, you don't need fucking the sound of rain against the window. Like, the song exists. It's good. Yeah. Now let's have fun with it. We were very relaxed. And we sat on, and it was like sitting on my bed. And we were both sitting on my bed naked, and we nailed the take. But it was like the one we decided to do. Or like we finished it, and we're like, that was the one, you know? We heard Duff coming through, and we just like moved the guitars. So we were just naked on the bed, and he came in. He laughed a little bit. It wasn't like he didn't bust up laughing, but it was like, it was a great tiny fuck with Duff, because he's always fucking with us. He's always like, okay, play. Or like, well, that was good. Do you want to do it again? Like, or like saying, you know, it's like, so it just felt right to try to fuck with him back a little bit. And it worked. It was great.
That sounds like such a difficult way to communicate.
Yeah. I mean, and it's totally like, I know people have worked with him that they were like, they're happy with the product itself, but they're like, yeah, that was like a weird time. And I love, like, and there's people in my band that hate it too. So sometimes it's like clashing. But for me, for my money, for like solo or duo recordings, it's like, I love that sense of humor, because it's not like he values the music any less. I think it's a cool way to like relieve tension, you know, because sometimes before like an all live take, because that's kind of his thing too, you're like, oh crap, we like have to nail this or whatever. And him kind of being deadpan and acting like he doesn't care about your music is like kind of a good way to like, but he does care, because he's like, he's there, and he's like, he puts a lot of time into it, and that's enough, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree. You decided to do 5 live and 5 tracked on this Good Kid album. All like full live tracking seems so stressful to me. How did you decide which ones you're going to do live and which ones you're going to do tracked?
Basically, it was like the ones that were solo or close to solo, we were going to do we're going to do live, because in some ways those ones are harder to track, or like when you're playing acoustic, like, or like with one other acoustic guitar and harmony, it's like, I like to think that we can just get that one. Like the only really involved live one was Sunday Lovers, and that took like a whole day, and I'm glad it did. It was like the one Duff really like wanted to do. Like he really made sure to be like, I want to record that song when I sent it to him, and so we spent like a long time on it, where we did the drone note on the amp and like did all this stuff, and it took a long time. It was kind of a tough day. I mean, it was mostly that, like, the main reason at that time was that our band wasn't as consistent as it was in the past or it is now as far as players. So none of the songs had like set arrangements like they have before. And so we kind of needed to do the rhythm tracks like we did the rhythm track, like bass, drums. It was just snare drum and guitar without vocals live, just to have like the bed track ready so we could have a little more freedom to arrange it carefully over it. So basically the full band ones got tracked just because we were like, we have a lot of like talented homies that wanted, that we could get to play on this stuff, that we wouldn't have to like have super set arrangements for it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we decided to do that.
That's interesting. How long have you been? So it's Chris Acker and the Growing Boys. I mean, just like Nikolai and Zach. Like, how long have you been working with them?
Man, it's like coming up on 6 years, I think now.
Wow. You've been in New Orleans that whole time?
Yeah. I started coming to New Orleans in the spring of 2014. Did my first Mardi Gras, hung out for a couple months. Spring of 2015, came back and did it again. And then really moved here and started the band in the fall of 2015. So it's been about, six years.
Wow.
5.5, whatever, something like that. As far as like consistent, as far as playing, like starting a band and living here. And I met Nikolai in the spring of 2015 busking. We just met on Royal Street. Like one of my friends brought him out to play with us. And then Zach moved in the fall, and I met him in New Mexico because I was driving down, and one of our friends was really fed up with us and wanted out of the van and was like, my other friends are coming through Albuquerque. I want to get in their car. Yeah. And so we met. And then when we all got to New Orleans, the three of us started playing together and have had kind of like a revolving cast around that. And when Sam moved here, it's pretty much been consistently Sam on drums. I guess like the thing that hasn't been as consistent is like a second lead player, whether it's fiddle or electric guitar. But now we do have that, so it's great. We have a real band now.
Nice. What is it about Louisiana that's kept you guys there?
I know it's like definitely it's somewhat Louisiana because like we have a lot of friends in Western Louisiana, and I love Western Louisiana, but a lot of the credit is like to New Orleans specifically because it is such an anomaly, not just in America but in Louisiana itself. I don't know what's really kept us here is like because we've talked about how like it really like it's so inconvenient in so many ways. Like there's no industry for music here. It's hard. I'm gonna kind of sound like an asshole here, but a lot worse bands than ones that are in New Orleans make it in LA and Nashville and New York a lot quicker than really good bands in New Orleans make. Like there's so much good music here that will never get out, you know?
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a beautiful and sad thing at the same time. There is like an insular element that's nice of like it's ultimately dumb, but like there is like kind of this ownership of like we have these little secrets, you know, and it's always fun to keep the secret. And also it's like it's a hard place to live. It's debaucherous. It's cheap, but it's also hard to fucking turn a dollar. It's like it's super fickle and it's got crazy weather, like the tornado I was telling you about. Like we might have a tornado. Like I guess to answer your question, what keeps us here is like what keeps us here is so much less. Like the amount of things that keep us here versus the amount of things that are like resisting that is such a it's disproportional, you know, like like there's so many reasons not to live in New Orleans, like so many. And
you are not selling it.
I know because I'm not, but the things that keep you here is like it's really hard to imagine life without them once you experience them. Like I wouldn't. Who's to say if things would be going better if I lived in a different place? I don't think it's worth the risk because, like, even if this stuff never works out, fully, if I can't make a living off of this eventually, I would never trade this, like some of the days and nights I've had in New Orleans. It's an absolutely insane place. It's I think we all just like, there's parts of it that's just too fun. Like it's too fun to like imagine leaving sometimes,
Yeah, that's a really good sell.
Yeah.
I support that one.
Yeah, the ending. Yeah, you just had to let me get through the. Yeah, I just wanted to filter people out.
Yeah. You can start with "It's so fun" next time. Just be like, "It's so fun here."
Yeah. It's so fun, and then I'll tell you about all the violence and hurricanes some other time. But
you mentioned debauchery, and one of the things in an interview you mentioned when you first came there, just kind of going with the flow, drinking as much as everybody else was drinking, and then kind of as you grow up, learning how to create your own boundaries and be like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, I have to get my stuff together. Hey, me too.
I mean, yeah, I'm doing all right now.
I have zero shame in day drinking. I think it's one of the joys of being alive.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that happens here, because you can it's open container.
Oh,
so you
really?
go to the corner store and you're just like, I could get a water, or like you're biking somewhere, like you're biking to work.
Yeah.
Like, well, or I could, yeah.
I imagine biking while drinking is still illegal because it still counts as a vehicle, correct?
I don't think so, or I don't know. I've never.
Okay, because you're not allowed to drink and drive, right?
Maybe this is my own privilege, and but like, I've driven by a lot of cops.
Yeah.
While drinking beer,
Yeah.
Or biked by a lot of cops. Never really had a problem with it. But again, I don't actually know.
Was there like a particular event where you were like, all right, I no longer want to be like doing this same thing over and over again? Like, were you late for work the like fifth time in a row after like staying up too late, or like did something come to a head?
There was no like real come to a head, but there were just plenty of moments like that. I mean, one that's pretty funny is, and this is a whole nother story, but I got this job as a janitor at a strip club.
Like you do.
Like you do. And the whole story of how I got that job is a whole nother thing. But basically, like, when that opportunity arises, you're never going to get that again. So you have to take it. And I didn't, like, it wasn't a job that I was like, I'm going to hold on to this one. So when I got fired from it, it wasn't like oh man, I really suck, I got fired from this janitor job. But it was this night, I stayed up all night at a party and then had like a day gig and forgot that I was working, and I just didn't show up because I was like, oh, I assume that like they can't find another guy for this gross job, like, and then I walked in the next day and they were like, get the hell out of here, like, wow. Fuck you. And because it was true. I mean, I should have probably respected that more, but I don't know, I'd say that was like going to a gig at sunrise after not sleeping and skipping out on your strip club job and then getting fired from a strip club. It's like there's a certain way of life that I'm implying in that whole thing that was not sustainable to health. And it's fun I still have fun in Mardi Gras, like indulging in that. I don't know. I mean, like a common thing in New Orleans is people are like, oh man, I got to leave because I can't keep up anymore. I have always, or in the last few years, with at least what I was referring to in that interview, is just being like, well, I want to change my relationship with this place so it's not, because there's also this element of that way of thinking of like, well, if I can't do that, then there's no point in being here, which is like not true,
Right.
The people have a really singular idea of what this place can mean to them. Not to say I didn't my life is like bars and like playing music at the, it's not like I like really toned it down that hard, but I just mean like, but like, I don't want to like act like a fucking saint about it, but just as far as like making your life more sustainable in this place, or long lasting. It eventually meant like being more careful with the nights you choose to do that, as opposed to like, because it was like for a while there was like every night, like there was a stretch where my one friend was I like lived at this party house, and then like there was also parties at this other house, and I just would be seeing the sunrise all the time, to the point where it didn't mean anything. And that sucks, because I love a night where you like make it to the other side and you're like, oh my God, the sun's coming up, and you watch the sunrise over the river or something like that.
Yeah.
And when that becomes like, when you're bored of that, like, you gotta like, you just can't make a life of that, you know?
I mean, I went to college in a town. I live in Santa Barbara.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, we have Santa Barbara, California, and we have a town. The college town is called Isla Vista, and it's where like it's known for its partying. It's just a square mile. It's like what happens in Jimmy Neutron when they wish all the parents away, and all the kids just eat junk food and party. That's
I actually know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is for 4 years, and it's that same thing where like if you can learn to not default into what everyone else is doing around you, you've kind of learned one of the most important lessons in life, which is like you can, make choices.
Well, yeah, and that is actually, man, that's an amazing point, because there is like this element of it too, where it's like, it's also just like a sense of self, and a sense of like, are you just gonna do what other people are doing, and also that contributes to the thing we were talking about earlier about like people having assumptions and expectations of you because of what they've seen as your actions, and that's all they know you for. And then instead of drawing a boundary or being like, no, I'm actually like this, you're like, well, this is what that person thinks of me, and I don't want to disappoint them. Like I've done that. I guess that's a much more succinct way to say what I was trying to say earlier, which is just like, sometimes you end up playing into what your idea of their idea of yourself is, and then that's like, that's bad. Like you have no sense of self at that point.
Right.
And it's just, so like,
it all comes back to choose yourself, man.
It's choose yourself, get rid of your friends, get rid of your family, isolate, you're alone. Yeah, exactly. That's what works.
Are you interested in playing a song? We got a few more minutes.
Yeah, sure.
We talked about Sunday Lovers. We mentioned Good Kid. Gran Turismo is super fun.
Cool.
Whatever, but really whatever song you're into.
I'll do Someday Lovers.
Cool.
That one's been coming up a lot too, because I have a friend in town, and she's got this little 2-year-old. The 2-year-old is like, knows this song because they have the cassette in their car.
That's awesome.
And it's the cutest thing. That like, we were around a fire the other night, and the baby was there, and she was like, there's all these people passing the guitar, Sam was there and all that, and then the baby was like, Sunday Lovers? And it was so like, cute. I was like, that's good night. That's all I need. Well, yeah, this is Sunday Lovers. Clouds pressed upon the glass like foam on a coming tide. I'm not the same size in your thoughts as you are in mine. Chased our shadow off the floor right into a faded sky. But you're just a someday lover, so I can't rely. All you someday lovers, you know I can't rely on all that Sunday talking about some uncertain time. Why say would if you won't quit talking like you might? All you Sunday lovers, you know know I can't rely. Now, as a person figure, there's one for all their life. Do the ones that know there's others just want love without compromise. Still there's some that just can't stand with no one at their side. There's all you someday lovers on whom I can't rely. Why say you would if you won't quit talking like you might? All you someday lovers know I can't rely. No friend like the night help you remember. No fool like the day tricks you to feeling better. When I said you and me, I meant together. But just like the someday lover, you made someday sound like never. Just like a someday lover, you made someday sound like never.
So good, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks for requesting that. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Are you ready for rapid fire no relation questions?
Yes, I love that.
These are things I ask everybody because they're my favorite things. What's some bad advice you've heard about how to better your music career?
Bad advice I've gotten? I don't know if anyone's given me advice.
Ever? Really? Like your parents?
Well, honestly, that's probably where a lot of bad advice comes from. Not God, they're gonna hate me for saying, but like not in this like bad way, but just like.
Are your parents in the music industry?
No, they just don't know what they're talking about.
So
but
there
they're
you
like,
go.
Oh, I heard of this thing, like
Yeah. Do they have accents?
No, is that an accent?
Yeah. Did you hear this thing?
Yeah, I've heard of this. What's some really terrible advice I've gotten? It'll like take this hit. It's probably some of the worst advice I've gotten.
If I ask you what's good advice, would you say that same answer?
No. I all my worst shows have been because I took a hit of marijuana before. I love it.
That's good to know about yourself.
Yeah, we can make it more rapid fire if you want to re-ask the question. But no, that's the no, I'm kidding. But take a hit, and then I took a hit of weed, and the show went to shit.
That's so funny.
Forgot words. Sometimes you just get so self-conscious. That's the last thing you want to be on stage. So
yeah,
but not like in the cool, vulnerable way. Self-conscious,
Yeah.
like that's cool. People love that out of songwriters, but not the hate yourself way.
Hate yourself and feel like they're all against you.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't help.
Do you have any like mentors or people that you look up to as a musician or just as a person in life that you're trying to emulate?
I'd be really curious if Sam Gopan said the same thing. But there's this guy named Devin Champlin. He leads a band called Sons of Rainier. Sam plays drums in that band as well. I don't know. That guy is like, as a musician and a person and just a friend and someone that's dedicated to what they do, but is also not too precious about anything they do.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's probably who I admire most or would want to be like. I'd also like to be like as attractive as he is. He's a good looking man. But yeah, I don't know. That's Devin Champlin. He builds guitars, which I'm not interested in. I'm never going to build a guitar. I know that about myself now.
Yeah.
But he just is like a craftsman and a good songwriter, but also like just his how he leads his day to day is so.
How does he lead his day to day? Like what does he do?
He always seems open to it shifting directions on account of like a friend coming into town. He sets aside time for himself and is able to create and do all the things he wants, but he never, like in his day to day, it'll be like one of the best days of my life was a morning I slept on his couch. I woke up and he was making pancakes, and he makes amazing pancakes. Or no, they were waffles, both.
Which are better than pancakes.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. I'm glad we agree on that.
He makes really good pancakes. They're basically waffles.
Yeah. They're almost as good as waffles. And then we ate pancakes or waffles, fuck. And he was like, do you wanna go into town? And I was like, sure. And then he got out of his rowboat and we like rowed across Bellingham Bay into town with pancakes in our bellies, and it was just like, and then he went and did his thing and worked at his shop, and then I did my thing. We met back up later and had a campfire, and like I was just like, just his ability to be present, I guess. And like obviously both those things are fun, so it's not like, wow, it's just really amazing he wanted to eat pancakes and row a boat. But like sometimes people are like, oh crap, I need to get to work, I need to go do my thing. There's some eggs in the fridge, I'm out of here. And just something about like he just seems to take his time and never overbook himself, but everyone that's around him seems to be satisfied with the time they get with him, which is something I struggle with. I feel like sometimes I overbook myself so hard that it compromises the time I do set aside for people, which is shitty. And also ties back to what we're talking about trying to please people due to their assumptions of you, like that guy likes to hang out.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't know. Devin Champlin. He's the best.
That's a great answer. Do you have any books that you really have been into, or like any big ones in the last year that have really changed your life in any significant way?
I love that question. There was a few I read Moby Dick and the Idiot by Dostoevsky back to back, which is cool. Like really long books. I liked them fine. I read Notes of a Native Son by James Baldwin. I'd recommend that. I really loved that. I think what I've enjoyed most, a book Devin Champlin gave me called The Stories of Brice Pancake, who's like a short story writer from West Virginia in the 1970s, and he just has like really amazing stories. And then I'm reading a book right now that I guess would be the better answer to that question, which is called The Glory of Their Times, and it's kind of vignettes about some of the earliest baseball players.
Cool.
I'm like a big baseball fan, and the whole book is about like the first decade of the 1900s and the baseball players talking about baseball back then. I eat that shit up.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to ask about was age 16 quitting beloved baseball, and you even mentioned in that interview like, well, I made a lot of errors that year, and I was like, oh, this is a guy that cares about baseball pretty intensely.
Yeah, I had a bad season. I had a bad sophomore season. I was kind of like the bright hope. Like I was the starting shortstop of the freshman team, and they were kind of expecting me to play JV sophomore year, and then the track was junior and senior year. I'd be shortstop there, but I really ate shit that year. So
yeah. Do you have any like athletic outlet at the moment?
I still play catch a lot, and also New Orleans is really friendly to biking.
Cool.
Just because it's flat, so the amount of exercise you actually get, I don't know. But if I decide to bike somewhere, there's some days I accidentally bike like 10 miles or something, it's like really great. Yeah, that's my athletic outlet.
Nice. That's the majority of the questions I have. There's still Mossy Bottom and getting paid in records. The story of you getting paid in records to play shows over at Mossy Bottom Records, which is something I really respect. There was a series of gigs that I did, and I would just barter for things that they owned. Of like, I know you can't pay me, but how many beer steins can I walk out with without you saying anything if I play here for an hour? And then being like, 6? And we've been like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any other things that you've been paid in that's not money?
Yeah, beer, beer, food, records. God, I feel like I'm missing. Here's just a quick story about a weird gig. I got hired for $100 and some birthday cake to play this birthday party for. It was for a home where a lot of were four people with that disorder, and I played the birthday party, but they were all quiet, but they were like, it's all like expressive through the face,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just supposed to play old country songs was the deal, like just Hank and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and like it was such a cool gig because it was just dead silent. There's no applause or anything, but everyone's face
Yeah.
was just like like I don't want to say freaking. It was like everyone's
Yeah.
face was like incredibly expressive and
Yeah.
changing with like every
Yeah.
lyric and every, like, it was just like it was the coolest crowd to look out onto, like a bunch of
Mm.
people in like assisted chairs, and then I ate birthday cake with all of them, and that was
That's
awesome.
awesome.
That was one of my favorite gigs ever. But
That sounds really special. That sounds so tricky to navigate.
yeah, I mean, at first it was like a little jar, or like I just never been in that
Yeah.
situation, but it quickly became very beautiful.
Yeah.
Like the moment I started playing, it was just like I didn't really know what to do between songs or before I started playing, but like once I was playing, it was like, this is awesome.
That's sweet. Well, great. Would you be interested in playing one last song?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm releasing a song on Friday that I released the music video today. Obviously, this will be,
Right.
I guess, not time sensitive, but the song will be out by the time. But I feel like singing this song.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a new one off. We have an album coming out this summer, so. I'm at the laundromat, pulling the sleeves to my t-shirts back, watching that cycle spin. My socks look like fish jumping, scrolling through Craigslist, just wishing I had IBS to qualify for a medical test, pay all my good friends back. I get panicked and paralyzed. I've got habitual perversions and manic aspirations just to get myself out of bed, dig myself from the pillow and walk the sleep out of my head. Looking at the shower knobs, the cold handle is labeled hot. The light switch is outside the door. I find faces in the tiled walls. I used to get blemishes on my skin, look like someone sank a battleship. Now when they call me handsome, I don't wanna believe them, but you know that I tried. And I get panicked and paralyzed. My hairline is losing real estate. My forehead is expanding my face. I spend 5 minutes a day just pulling my head from the drain. And I can get mad so fast, pulse defies reason. I don't search for words to explain. I wind up hurting someone, and I look for a receiving end, place my frustrations. But because they start with me, it's the only place they're gonna end. I get panicked and paralyzed. And all of my thank yous are for your understanding, proceeding, and apology. Was I ever really lucky, or was it just others? Was it just others' favors and sympathy? I'm gonna get so bitter carrying on like this, not knowing how to say how I feel. Catch me honking at student drivers with my head on the wheel. Yeah, catch me honking at student drivers with my head on the wheel.
Do you often wish you had IBS?
Yeah. Probably not really.
You really don't want IBS.
No, it's all a lie. But I have like been on Craigslist looking at medical tests, being like, man, I did that. I could be financially stable, but I don't want to. Too scared.
That's smart. You should be.
I mean, if I can get a vaccine today, but that's different.
That's very different. It's different than being in a medical trial. You are receiving a drug that's quite fine.
Yeah, and is generally going to save us from what we're in right now. So
Yeah.
It's our way out.
Yeah.
It's our way out, baby.
I agree. Thank you so much for doing this today. I was so excited to chat with you. One, because it seems like Sam has an amazing network of people, like a group of friends that really care about each other and really lift each other up and lift up each other's art. And I think that's incredibly rare.
He's also very good at that. He's also better than other people at that. He is an amazing artist and an amazing supporter. Sam Gilman's my favorite person on earth.
Yeah, but good people attract good people. So, it's not like you're the oddball in the group that's weighing it all down, you clearly, I would say that you clearly add a lot of joy and variability to their lives, I'm sure.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so thank you for doing this. I really enjoy your songwriting. That Good Kid album that came out right before the pandemic hit, so you couldn't really tour it. But this new album, when does that come out, and what should we expect?
Comes out in August if everything stays on time. As far as it was an album that came largely out of lockdown. There were kind of like a lot of odds and ends, or things that I hadn't started, or things I started a long time ago that I kind of had the time to tie together and give myself to, and I got a great band together for it, and we recorded it. I'm very I used to be shy about this kind of stuff, but I'm just really proud of it. I'm really excited for people to hear it.
Good. You should be. Is it also a mashed potatoes record situation?
No, this was a stray from our regular course. I have a friend in upstate New York in the Hudson Valley, which I think some New Yorkers wouldn't qualify as upstate, but from below I-10, it seems like upstate. And we went up there. We quarantined and tested, and Sam was with us, and our friend Dave Hammer and Nikolai and Zach. We went up there and we recorded. It was our first digital record. We did it all digitally. We did it still mostly live, which is still very much it's a very live. It's a lot more live record than the last one. Yeah, we did it in 5 days, and then in October, and then so it all happened quick. The first 6 months, it was settling shit, we have an album. Let's go record it. It kind of happened because we couldn't do anything behind Good Kid. So I don't know. I don't want to be too urgent to find silver linings in what's been a god awful time in history and in America. But on a personal level, there were bright spots of as far as I stayed in my home for a month straight.
Yeah.
And so that's where that came from. Yeah.
That's awesome. If people want to find your music, buy your music? Just Spotify, iTunes, or is there some place you want to send them specifically?
I mean, if you want to buy it, Bandcamp's always the best thing. But like, I also like am not gonna pretend like I don't listen to all my music for free on Spotify. So yeah, I'm on
Right.
Spotify,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't really give any money to artists, but we'll have to make money touring when that's a thing, or I don't fucking know. But yeah, find it anywhere. I buy it on Bandcamp, that'd be cool. But also, oh yeah, we're gonna have a new line of T-shirts. We're gonna have vinyl. We're gonna have tapes. We're gonna have everything. It's gonna be
Nice.
fun.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
It's also my favorite album. I'm so excited to show the album art. It's my favorite album art of the 3 records we've done.
That's exciting. That's how you want to feel.
Yeah, I'm like, it's a painting, which I've always
Cool.
liked. Is like when a album cover is just like a piece of art, So,
Yeah. Is that what the t-shirt's gonna be?
no, but I almost did that. I almost was just like, oh, I think we might do a line of T-shirts that is just the album cover, but then we're also doing another design from I don't know, with merch it's kind of fun. It's just like you just got to be like, what's an artist I like? They can like, and then hire them to do something. It's like it's a cool creative opportunity to like kind of push things that you like,
Yeah, I agree. Awesome, sweet. Well, I'm gonna clap on my end.